Hey guys, welcome back to the Keep It Wausome podcast, the podcast that brings you the most interesting, fascinating, and quirky characters of Central Wisconsin. I think I change that just about every time I do it, but I got a really cool guest for you today. We're gonna have a lot of fun, but before we get into that, I want to thank Scotty's Ale House and Eatery. If you haven't tried their elk burger, I recommend you go check it out and maybe sit on their patio too. And we're brought to you by Campbell Haynes Menswear. One of the reasons I'm as stylish as I am, not today, but usually, is because of Campbell Haynes Menswear. So go check them out right in the corner of 3rd Street in Jefferson. And also brought to you by Verve Salon. These guys have some of the best hairstyle people in the world. That's probably not the right word, but they do great work, and they're all inclusive. They can handle just about any hairstyle or any hair color you can throw at them. So go check them out, Verve Salon. For today's show, I am bringing to you the brand new, not even yet named, or she's been named, but not yet sitting, but she's about to be the new Marathon County Health Officer. And this comes at a really interesting time. So welcome to the show, Laura Scudiere.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Did I actually say her name right this time?
Scud. Yeah, I tell people it's Scud like a Scud missile,
Scud.
And dairy like the farm.
Scudiere.
Yeah.
So I've been saying Scudiere.
You know, it's very Italian, like Scudiere.
The Scudiere. You know? It's a Scudiere.
Right?
Yeah,
it's fun to see how people, like everybody does it differently. And so I get a little kick out of how many different ways my name could be said.
And I was actually more concerned about the second part. I was surprised to learn I was saying the first part wrong this whole time.
Right.
Well, Scud, so there was, back when I was a teenager, one of my favorite comic books was Scud the Assassin. So I can remember that.
There's a comic book?
Yeah.
I need to have this.
Oh, it's a really good one too. It's really quirky and fun. And, you know, I don't know if, I'm sure they're not still making them, but I'm sure you can find back issues. Rob, I'm sure your husband Rob can help you out that. He's a comic book aficionado.
I can't believe he hasn't shared this with me.
I don't know if he's aware of it. Because I don't know how far back his comic fandom goes.
I don't think super far.
Yeah, he might have to do a little digging for you, or I'm sure you can find it too. But yeah, Scud the Assassin. It was Scud the Disposable Assassin.
Ooh.
He was a robot, and like the idea is, I think, like people would go to a vending machine, and he'd be in the vending machine, and you'd pay your money or whatever into the vending machine, and he would come out and kill whoever he needed to kill.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was a pretty funky comic, come to think of it. I should look those up myself.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that are into comics, so I will ask them if they can locate one for me, because I'm totally into it.
So speaking of disposable assassins, you're about to be the new health officer.
What a segue.
I couldn't resist, but yeah,
right?
tell me how you're feeling about that. It's a really interesting time to become a health officer.
So my background is public health. Like I have a public health master's degree, and I've worked in various public health related positions. And so like, this just feels right. It just feels like really close to my interests. It is such a funky time to start, because I started with the health department 2 weeks before COVID hit. And so and thankfully I was on the board of health for 8 years before I joined up with the health department. So I have some understanding of like the inner workings of how things go. But when COVID hit, all health departments everywhere were 100% COVID all the time.
Oh yeah.
So like I never did the health educator job that I had been originally hired to do, because I immediately was put into like COVID related work, testing, vaccines, you name it.
Yeah, going back to that, I mean, so when COVID first hit, I sort of felt like the feeling kind of reminded me of 9/11, where you have this kind of like shared national thing that you got to deal with, like, and it seemed like, people were going to come together, and like this was going to be almost a common cause, and that lasted like 2 weeks. And then it just became this political nightmare that it's been ever since.
Well, it was fascinating because you could kind of get a sense from the kind of calls we were beginning about where the collective feelings were at. So in the beginning, like when I was doing health education, one of the things we did was took calls from the public. And so on any given day, I would take 60 to 80 calls of people who were just scared. And so the first couple months, people were scared and they wanted to know exactly how to prevent themselves from getting sick and their families. And then it kind of transitioned to people being mad about their civil liberties being restricted. And then we started to get like a variety of calls of like some were really not happy and really wanted to take it out on somebody.
Yeah.
Those were not fun.
What was your specific role at that time?
I was, well, at that time, so that's the thing, I was hired as a health educator, but all
Yeah.
of us were doing COVID
But
related
you were
work.
all
So
like
yeah, so I had been, I did some contact tracing. I did, I answered as health educators, we're really well poised to be able to answer questions about like, how do I need to disinfect my business and things like that.
And how did you guys handle getting information? Because one of the things about COVID is like, I mean, in the early days, we knew so little about it. There's so many things from the early days that we've now learned maybe aren't as true as we thought. We thought it lived on surfaces, then we found out it really doesn't. It's an aerosol-based disease or virus. How did you guys handle that when so much was unknown to you guys too?
Oh my gosh. Well, it was hard. We were just getting so much information that we were trying to make it bite-sized for the public, and because it was just like a fire hose of information, it was hard for us to determine, and we made some mistakes. Like in the early days, we were like, why are people masking? We don't have any evidence that it helps anything, and we were telling people don't mask in the very beginning because we didn't have the evidence to support it. And then we had to do a 180 when we found out actually there is evidence to support it and we should be doing this. And so, that was difficult because in public health, you don't want to lose credibility with the public. You want to be able to give the right information the first time.
Well, that's one of the weird things that became politicized, not just the mask, but like, so Dr. Fauci has been kind of become like the enemy of the right and the hero of the left. And I think he did a huge disservice when he came out and said that masks don't work when he apparently knew that they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was not a great time for public health that time, but we learned from it. Going back, I was just remembering the other day so I coordinated a lot of the testing events with the National Guard this time last year, and we really didn't know much enough about the disease to really understand all the pieces of it. And so I remember going out and we were wearing like crazy PPE.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, the National Guard was wearing like biohazard suits and stuff because we really didn't know much about it. And it's funny now because we know more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always easier in retrospect to look back and say, oh, well, we didn't know that then. But it was kind of a confusing time for everybody. I mean, it affected everyone in so many different ways. In some way or another, it affected everyone. And it's still ongoing now, and with stuff like the Delta variant. So what's the percentage of Delta variant? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But I mean, what are you guys concerned about the Delta variant now? I mean, obviously you are, that's not a question, but like, how concerned are you about it? And what do you guys know about it that maybe the public doesn't or should know about it?
Yeah, Delta it's getting worse in our area. We're worried about it because it's just so much more transmittable. Like with COVID, it would be, and I don't have the exact facts in front of me, but it was like 2 to 3 people would potentially get infected with COVID with the first novel virus. With the Delta variant, it's more like 6.
Really?
And so it's just, and then if you wear a mask, it's like 0.5. If everybody's wearing a mask, it's 0.5. So like we're worried about our hospital systems, and here at the health department, we're like really worried about schools opening up. Like it's coming. And we want to make sure that families have what they need to feel like their kids are protected going to schools and working with schools. We're actively trying to wade through this. It's so tricky right now because, I think every school is taking, a little bit of a different approach. And
Yeah.
so we're just trying to work with all of them to see how we can best provide a service for them.
Yeah, I mean, the masks have become kind of a political football, as many things have, and it's really interesting to see the extremes, everything from like no masks ever again to like Oregon just announced that they're requiring masks even outdoors. I think that's a little far. That's a little far, in my opinion, considering what we know about now. Now, what we know about how it spreads outdoors, we didn't know it back in March, April, May. So we were all like, see someone on the street, you'd be like, I'm gonna walk over here.
Right.
But no, we know that seems a little extreme, but also like the idea that we're never going to wear masks again maybe seems a bit much. Like, I don't know, how do you guys navigate that now, as like now that it's become so politically charged?
It's we try to take things on a case by case basis. I'm trying to listen with empathy all the time. That's something we all should be doing, for no matter what you're doing, if it's anything about that is politicized right now, we should be listening to each other with empathy. But so Brian, are you wearing your mask when you go out? Tell the truth now.
Like, no, not no.
Even in like, do you mind if I ask you if you're vaccinated?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Double shotted.
Yeah. Did you know right now that people can get $100 if they get vaccinated between, what was it? I have it down somewhere. August 20th to September 6th.
Unvaccinating myself so I can get
like, that's funny. I've been saying to people like, no, you cannot get revaccinated for the $100 at this point. Yeah.
Can I get the other one? What, I don't even remember which one I got. I think it was the Pfizer, but
was it Pfizer?
Yeah, which now has, did I read it's either did or is close to like full FDA approval?
It happened. It's fully approved.
Happen. I thought so. Yeah, I thought I read that.
Yep.
Well, that's good, because that was one of the criticisms I heard about the vaccines, is that they had been approved for emergency use, and according to what I'd heard, there hadn't been a lot of movement on getting them to full FDA approval, but it sounds like that's happened now, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to go through that testing and stuff.
Exactly. And so now the cool thing for you is that if you are exposed by, say, going to one of my favorite places, Scotty's, and because anytime we go out, we potentially someone could be there, and if like if you're exposed, then you don't have to quarantine because you're vaccinated. So good job.
Part of me kind of wants to be quarantined.
Well, the health officer now, so
I gotta be like, I gotta stay home. All right. Too bad. Can't go to work. Work from home. Crap.
The health officer says I need to stay home today.
It looks like you just pulled that out of the painting, because it kind of disappeared and then came back. That's funny, but no, that's really interesting. I didn't know that about. So they're offering a cash. Who's paying for that? Is that
state.
The state?
Yeah.
For anyone who gets vaccinated, what, you gotta go through both shots?
You just had. I think you only have to get one shot, but it's a good incentive. Yeah. I think they're really trying to encourage, because it's 12 and up now. Pfizer's 12 and up, so for back to school, that'd be nice. And frankly, if we get more people vaccinated, we can kind of cool down on some of these other mitigation measures that I've been talking about a lot. So
a lot of people are worried about that. I know there's a rally this weekend about, I'm not sure exactly what, but I know it's something along these lines. Something about not being made to wear masks or things like that. But I know a lot of businesses, like when our ad people went out for our latest magazine, I know a lot of the ad people were very concerned about, they were concerned about advertising because they were concerned about another wave of lockdowns coming down. Do you think that's a possibility, just practically, that we would get to that point again? And B, do you think that it's a possibility in terms of the way everything's been politicized, and there's some people, it seems like the climate, in my opinion, just wouldn't allow it anymore?
Yeah, I think it would be, at this point, I get asked this question a lot, especially because it's funny, in my free time I go to nursing school. So I have, because I am a sucker for a challenge,
Yeah.
apparently.
You have a
But
fun free life.
I don't really have much free time. It's this
No.
and school, and then that's it. But it's funny because I talk about this with my classmates, and I really, they want to know, when is the school going to get shut down? When is the school? When are we not going to be able to do clinicals? People will call me up and ask, like, when do you think we'll not be able to go out anymore, like last year? And I say, I can't. First of all, I have no idea, because I don't make those decisions. That the last time it was Governor Evers that made that that
Right.
decision. And he doesn't always, he's not immediately on picking up my calls. So, at least not yet.
Tony, come on. You pick up when
But-
Laura calls.
Well, he has to learn who I am and why he's my best friend. And then maybe he'll pick up my calls.
He has to learn that you're Scud the disposable assassin, and he better not, he better not step up, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we
Right.
need to send him one of those comic books.
Yeah,
He'll not
right.
see it as a threat.
Well, I've heard that he reads city pages, so I could probably just insert one in the city pages and send it to him, I guess. But
Nice. Okay, we've got a plan.
you got a plan.
Mhm.
So I guess, how long ago did you make the decision to pursue being the next health officer? And, were you concerned about, Joan took quite a lot of flack. I remember one meeting where someone had a sign that said "Joan ist mein Führer." I don't speak German, so it was something along those lines.
Mhm.
I don't know, that'd be kind of tough. Like I said, you're walking into a tough job.
Yeah. When I took the health educator position, honestly, I thought maybe health officer would be available someday in the future, and that was my intent. I was really, pretty disclosing about it from day one. And so when it did become available, I made sure that everybody knew that my interests were there. When it comes to your question about the potential ire of the community, I think I'm somewhat used to it, in that some of the things that I've taken on in my past in my career have been difficult, wicked problems, and you have to take a stand on them. And sometimes that is going to anger people. But again, there's that empathy piece. Like, if you try to approach things with empathy and listening, then sometimes it causes people to be less angry.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Would you say Bridge Community one of those situations?
Not as much. There was some conflict there. Bridge, there was a period of time where Bridge's funding was, the way that they were funded was needed advocacy, and so I undertook that. I think North Central Healthcare, the big concern at the time when I went to North Central Healthcare was crisis, and over crisis, and that was really a flashpoint for our community, and I did take a stand. I wanted to make sure that people had mental health support, especially on their worst day, which is when they need someone,
Right.
from crisis. So.
Well, you were kind of, for Bridge and for North Central Healthcare, you were kind of the person to come in and sort of change things up a little bit, as I recall. I think you made a lot of changes at Bridge. Can you talk a little bit about what you did at Bridge, and then maybe you can transition to North Central Healthcare too?
Yeah, let me think. So Bridge is a federally qualified health center, and their mission is to serve everybody regardless of their ability to pay. And so some of the things we did at Bridge when I was there, we expanded dental quite a bit. Dental was really something, if you had Medicaid and you needed dental services, at the time it was really difficult to find in our community. And so we had a lot of great clinicians that came to work at Bridge.
It was tough to get into Bridge Dental too. It was a really long waiting list unless you had an emergency, which pretty much meant you were going to go when you had an emergency, because you're not going to wait 3 years, but after 2 years, it's going to be an emergency.
Yeah, it It was bad. The situation was such that I could have hired maybe 3 times as many people, and we would still be dealing with immediate need. And I haven't checked back with the Bridge Clinic currently, and to see, where are we at today? That would be interesting to hear.
Yeah,
I think it's still a need in our community. There was always going to be a need for, dental providers that,
for sure.
that serve the underserved specifically. Yeah. But we also we started mental health services there as well, so that was nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then coming into North Central Healthcare must have been pretty interesting,
Yeah,
because
it was.
that was a very uh, tumultuous time for the organization, and frankly, it probably should have been. I know prior to the changeover, you couldn't get a hold of anybody there. I'd try to ask questions as a journalist, and they'd just get ignored. But they'd always bring me in after the story ran. And then they'd be like, well, what can we do to resolve this conflict? And I'd say, well, you could bring me in before, when I reach out to you before the story. That's a more effective time to get your message out than after the story. After the story, kind of too late. So
Right. Yeah.
and I know that it was weird because I moved back here, and I started developing relationships with like law enforcement and other organizations, other county officials, and I would kind of hear all the same things about, well, there's this difficulty with North Central Healthcare, and I was kind of surprised. I'm like, well, why is nobody writing about this? And so I started, and then I don't know, I don't want to give myself too much credit, but I know Brad did say that he felt that my writing had some impact on moving that forward, and but I'm glad it kind of turned, I was glad they came to a resolution on that. But you kind of jumped in like right at the height of that.
I did. I either great timing or terrible timing,
Right.
depending on how you look at it. Yeah. But it was interesting work, and the people that work there are great, and we all just wanted the same thing, which is that people experiencing a mental health crisis need to have good services, and we were able to work really closely with law enforcement, and we developed the crisis assessment response team. We call it the CART team, and they go out. It's a partnership between law enforcement and a counselor, and or crisis specialist, and they go out to the community and meet with people rather than just police who may not be mental health trained. A lot of them are, thanks to our police department and our sheriff's department, are very progressive in their views about incorporating an understanding of mental health into the just the average deputies or the average officer's work. Like it's really incredible.
Yeah, I know Chad Billups said his goal was to get every officer in the county mentally health trained, and I don't know if they got all the way there, but I know a significant number of them are. But yeah, it really helps to have someone who isn't a police officer sometimes too, because it makes me nervous. So if I get pulled over something, even if I don't think I did anything, I still get super nervous. It's a police officer and they got guns and stuff. So right, like
tell me more.
What? Oh.
Tell me what you've done.
Well, there was the armed robbery. No, I'm kidding. But no, I've been pulled over for speeding like a couple times, kind of like speed trap things. I'm not really a speeder, to be honest, but every once in a while you get that thing where you're just not paying attention. You're like, oh, it changed to 25 here. But I think the one actual speeding ticket I got was, I think I was going down a hill in a 25 and the car like briefly accelerated to over 35, and I was like, oh, too fast, slow down, hit the brakes. But that was enough to give me a ticket.
No, so, I had the same experience. It was, for me, it was by like NTC, and I was driving, and that's a 25, and I was driving 35 or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they should pay more attention to people going through crosswalks, because the pedestrians need to be safe, but that's my opinion.
We should call.
Yeah.
We should call Chad right now. Chad,
let's tell him.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, you were able to really help. It seemed like you were able to really help turn things around at North Central Healthcare from the crisis standpoint. I mean, a lot of changes happened.
It was a tough nut to crack, and honestly, I didn't make as much change as I had hoped, because I mean they do a great work over there. But some things were not North Central healthcare problems. When we really dug into it, it turns
Oh,
out they were
really?
like systemic stuff that, because if it was just North Central, it would have been easy to change because like, okay, yeah, well, we need more staff, boom, but it wasn't that simple. It was like when somebody's in crisis, they may go to the hospital, they may go to law enforcement might bring to the hospital, they might, and there's a lot of transitions between organizations so it's like a system that we were trying to impact, but those things don't change very quickly. So it was, it's like an ongoing project that, I'm sure they're still chipping away at that.
Yeah, and I think as I recall at the time, there were a lot of like, you guys worked a lot with law enforcement to say, okay, how can we make this work? Here's what you need, here's what we need. How can we kind of put the pieces together in a way that makes sense for everyone involved?
Yeah, it was tricky, but it was, when we did make change, like when we realized it was a systemic thing and not just North Central healthcare, like it changed the way that we, interacted, and it changed the way that our problem solving went. I know that Chad Billop, the chief deputy of the sheriff's department, really took a close look at their policies and procedures and made actual changes based on some of the discussions we had that really did have a very specific beneficial effect on the patients coming in through the sheriff's department. So that was cool.
So now coming into the health officer position, what ways do you think you'll approach the job differently than Joan did?
Joan and I think very similarly in some ways, but I think that there's some differences we have. Just any leader is going to be different, and I don't know exactly how much different it's going to be. I have to be in the job for a little while, so ask me again this time next week, or no? Yeah.
You're just gonna come on the podcast every week now.
Yeah, I'm just gonna come on. You can't stop me. I'll be like your Andy Richter.
Like the Zoom will just, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's just be on the couch. It's fine.
Yeah, I was watching one of your other ones, and I noticed that you had drinks with your other ones. You got
that's true.
Here, and I was like, why didn't I get that for mine?
Well, I mean, when you suggest one in the afternoon, then it's not as conducive to drinks, but
true.
But next time you're at Whitewater, let me know.
Okay.
Drinks are on me.
All right, sweet.
Cool. So I mean, are you working full time now at your job? Yeah, so it's not much of a transition. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I was in the community health improvement director role.
Yeah.
So I moved into that role, and that role is in charge of like our community health improvement plan, which is like what are the priorities for Marathon County for health in this next year, and we have 3 big priorities. Can you guess what they are?
Medical marijuana.
Nope. Kind of. So what?
I propose an amendment. No.
One is substance use, mental health.
Yep.
And then the third was health equity.
Health equity.
Right. So those are the big 3 that we're working on this year.
Equity is another hot button word these days.
Yes, it is. So it's interesting because it was a neutral word for years and years for public health. Like it was not a political word until fairly recently. So we're scrambling, trying to figure out how to explain health equity in terms that everybody can understand that.
How to not be Marxist. That's what you're working on, right? Yeah.
Right, yeah. Yes. That is how Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But I mean, health equity at its core, it just means that we're removing barriers so that everybody has the same opportunity to be healthy. Like it's a very
that makes
simple,
sense. I think so.
Yeah.
Are you concerned at all that like COVID is going to sort of overshadow these efforts, that you'll get pulled back into that fray and won't have time to focus on those priorities?
Yeah, I am concerned about that, honestly. The COVID takes a lot of our brain space and our resources right now. And the thing that worries me is that, chronic disease and other health problems in our communities are not going away.
Right, yeah.
It's not like if we just don't look at them, maybe they won't be, it's not the case.
Yeah, tuberculosis is still around.
It is. And tuberculosis is such an interesting disease because you see it in movies and stuff where, the lady gently coughs into a napkin and then it has blood on it. Have you seen movies like that?
Yeah. Oh, I've been watching I've been watching all the seasons of House. So
Oh, do they have TV on it?
no, but there's a lot of coughing of blood.
Yeah, that can be a variety of different things.
That or they pee blood. And it's one of the two usually. Usually they pull back the blanket and they're like, oh, there's a big red spot. Oh no.
What does House think of that?
It's not what we thought. Da da da.
Yeah.
Well, then it usually is usually followed by him taking some more Vicodin and
yeah.
Yeah, I think that show would get you canceled today. They'd never make that show today.
You don't think so?
There's a lot of things that happen in that show. I'm like, oh yeah, he'd be canceled. That wouldn't happen.
You know what show I was watching the other day that I felt that way about? Golden Girls.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you need to go back and watch Golden Girls and tell me what you think.
It's been a hot second since I've seen some Golden Girls, but I did watch it back in the day quite a bit.
And so far, from the pieces I saw, the show holds up. It's good. It's good stuff. And it's edgy. They did some jokes on there that I'm not sure they would be able to do.
Interesting. Well, I know Blanche was always going out and getting it. And
Yep. It's funny.
But they all talked about it quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So go back. Tell me what you think. I'm interested to hear.
I watched some Golden Girls. Well, I was watching, you know what old show I watched the other day was Three's Company. I was watching that.
Oh.
I watched the first couple of seasons of that.
And
I think that would also probably get, I think old Jack would have got canceled.
Yeah, I would hope that there would be less, because wasn't the conceit that he was actually gay, and that was but he wasn't, and so
they told the landlord that he was gay because the landlord was not cool with a guy living with two girls. And so, but I think the landlord's wife figured it out at some point, and so they were all kind of in on the joke. He was always hitting on them, definitely in ways that would get you canceled today. He would have got me too'd right out of there, for sure. But it's still I don't know, it's fun to watch those old shows sometimes.
Yeah, I was a big fan growing up of Perfect Strangers.
Oh, Perfect Strangers, yes.
It's so good. Don't you feel like they should remake it?
Yeah, or just bring it back, yeah. Or what would it be like today? That'd be interesting. Well, yeah, every time which doesn't happen very often, but whenever the Packers play the Browns, I always think of that scene from, do you remember the one where where Belky was really good at guessing the sports scores? And then all of a sudden he didn't want to, and the Packers were going to play the Browns, and Larry wanted him to predict, and he's like, the Packers or the Browns. So I do that whenever someone brings up the Packers or the Browns. I'm like, the Packers or the Browns.
Oh my gosh.
And they never know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That show was good.
Alpha was one of my favorites too.
Oh yeah. That one could get remade, right? You could do that.
Oh yeah. I don't remember anything in Alf that would really get you canceled. What I always thought was interesting when I watched that show is Lynn, was Lynn the wife? I think Lynn was the wife. Well, the teenage daughter would borrow her mother's clothes. And she was you could tell she was trying to look like her mother, like an adult. And I'm like, that's totally different these days, right?
Yeah.
Now moms are kind of trying to dress like their teenage daughters.
Yeah.
Probably, probably men too, men probably dressing like that, trying to look younger instead of like the younger people trying to look older. Super interesting. It's
So
funny how
here's
those.
a question.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
don't. I'm so curious because my knowledge of Alf is admittedly not what it should be.
Okay, well, you can work on that.
Okay, so I need your help. Was Alf a pet, or was he like a visitor or a member of the family? Like, what was his status?
He was an alien who crash landed from the planet Melmac, who crash landed in their house.
And so then, what? Like, did they treat him like a family member? Was that?
Yeah, I think they kind of treated him like an uncle who crashes on their couch and just won't leave.
Okay, sure.
The backstory on Alf is super fascinating because the guy who played the dad of the show, who played Danny Tanner. Wait, no, that's Full House, isn't it?
Full House, I think. Yeah.
Maybe his first name was Tanner. The guy who played the dad, like, hated the show and was so mad he would actually come. He was so resented being stood up by because he had been in TV for a long time. He'd been doing acting for a long time. And like the alien became clearly the star of the show, and everything was about, this puppet. And he resented it so much that toward the end, he would come to work, say his lines, and as soon as they stopped rolling, he just left and didn't say a word to anybody for like a year.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem very professional.
No, he just hated it. He hated the Alf so much. He just came, did his job, and left. And like, he never said a word to anybody. He hated his station in life so much.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Did he do anything else after Alf? Was Elf his last? Maybe he should have been nicer to Elf.
I don't know. I don't think he probably worked much after that. Now, you want to hear a really interesting piece of trivia is Family Matters. Some posit that Family Matters is a spinoff of Perfect Strangers, because the wife in Family Matters was the hotel operator in Perfect Strangers.
No. Yes.
Right?
You're blowing my mind. Yeah.
I thank Evan Cass for that one. He's the one who clued me in on that one.
Okay.
Didn't confirm it. Could be unconfirmed. I might be spreading misinfo.
Oh my gosh.
Might get the warning.
Last thing we at Public Health want to do, Brian.
I might get the warning label on the YouTube video, spreading misinfo about 80s sitcoms.
Oh man. Yeah. I used to love that. And when I was a kid, that Friday night, I think it was Friday night block of time with all the sitcoms. Like there's like,
yeah, TGI Friday.
Yep. Yeah.
TGIF.
Yep.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, I was into that. And I was also into the Saturday morning cartoons. I love Thundercats.
Gotta love them. Thundercats, heck yeah.
My favorite. Yeah.
I used to wake up super early in the morning for no good reason and watch Rocky and Bullwinkle. It was on at like 5:30 in the morning or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm trying to think of the other ones. Gummy Bears, was it?
I remember Gummy Bears.
Yep, that was, yeah.
Muppet Babies. DuckTales.
Muppet Babies.
DuckTales is a classic. Muppet Babies is too.
You can watch Muppet Babies, old versions of the show on YouTube. And I was showing it to my son, and the versions are like, the recordings are very poor, but it was such a fun, imaginative show,
It was.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those old 80s shows were kind of like funky and weird and cool, and it's interesting. Do you find, so what's interesting is my sister's kids have, like, they really gravitate toward a lot of 80s stuff, which I think is really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mine does not.
No, not into it.
No, I've tried to get him into stuff. You have to be careful. My experience is I have to be careful about when I introduce stuff to him that I love. Because if I do it too soon, he hates it and never revisit it. And so like things that I grew up with that I really like Star Trek and Ghostbusters and stuff, like I've waited because I don't like, it would be a rift in our house if I show him Ghostbusters and he does not appreciate Ghostbusters in the way it deserves to be.
I mean, there might be adoption papers involved at this
It's-
point if it gets too intense, right?
Yeah. No, it would be military school.
It's cool. Oh man, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, but you know, some of those old movies, have you gone back and watched some of like the 80s movies and you haven't seen them in a really long time and they're like super different from what you remembered?
Yeah.
You know, one of the ones that really shocked me was Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Because there's like some kind of messed up stuff in there.
Really? Like,
Yeah. Well, like they used the 3-letter F word quite a bit. Well,
oh,
like a few times, and you're like, whoa, that's
Yeah.
right. People used to say that in movies back then. That's crazy.
yeah.
Like
Wow.
you would never see that in a film today, nor should
Yeah.
you. Right.
Right.
Yeah, and then there was the weird thing where his like his dad was sleeping with one of their fellow students.
Oh, yeah.
Like that was weird. And like they implied that they were kicking him out of his own room so they could, you know,
Mhm.
consummate that relationship. It's like, dude,
Wow.
that's really
Did you
messed
see
up.
the new Bill and Ted? There was a new movie that came out during the pandemic.
Oh, I heard about it. I didn't watch it.
I liked it. I thought it was
Did you?
cute. It was remarkably less problematic than what you're describing.
Yeah.
But
Wait, did I
it was
watch
kind of
it?
fun.
I'm trying to remember if I watched it or not.
It was one of those things where like they released it so you could stream it at home, and I remember
Yeah.
thinking like, wow, this is so great. But I don't know about you, but I love going to the movie theater. Like I
Really?
yeah, I love the experience, and just like, I don't know, something about it is just so fun for me. I think our movie theater is really cool too.
For me, it has to be a movie I don't care that much about.
Oh
Because if
yeah.
like I'm really into it, then I'll get annoyed if people are like goofing around or being on their phone or making noise.
Mhm.
Like if it's a movie I really want to get, like if it's a Star Trek movie, you know,
Mhm.
then I'll get annoyed by it. But if it's like a Marvel movie where I'm kind of like, whatever, it's like a fun popcorn movie. Okay, then I don't mind. I gotta say, I like the seats though.
Yeah, me too.
That's
Did you know
big-
that the movie theater is supposedly haunted?
Oh, this one?
So yeah,
The Cedar Creek one?
Cedar Creek, supposedly haunted. I got it on good. Actually, when I got my hair done at Verve Salon,
There you go.
and they're fantastic. And my hairstylist told me that it was haunted, and because they
Wow.
used to work there, and there was lots of stories about stuff like lights turning on and sounds, and it was interesting.
That is interesting. Well,
Mhm.
so now you just got to work in Campbell Haynes, and you'll have worked in all my sponsors. Of the
I
show.
don't know. I'm
This-
sure they're a great company. I just I don't know much about them.
You'll have to send Rob to get a shirt so you can have an
Sure.
anecdote. Yeah,
Sure.
that's interesting. That I haven't heard that about Cedar Creek. That's really interesting. I know the old Rogers, which is now the Fillmore
Mhm.
Theater. That was like everyone talked about how that one was haunted,
Oh yeah.
and the Grand too.
Yeah. Didn't they had like those investigators. What do they call them?
Oh yeah, the Paranormal Society.
Paranormal. Yeah. So they went in and did recordings and stuff. I never heard of what came from that. Well,
I don't know.
the North Central Healthcare building, the one that is Lakeview Professional Plaza, used to be a TB hospital, and there's lots of stories about the Pink Lady, who walks around and potentially could have, if you believe in ghosts, would have been like somebody from the TB hospital days. So,
I don't know if I believe in ghosts, but I find the stories interesting.
oh, same. Like
Because you're basically getting a really cool history lesson.
That's why when I went to New Orleans with my husband, we did a haunted walk around New Orleans, and from a public health perspective, it was interesting because it talked all about like all the different diseases people get, mitigation measures and stuff like that. And then for my husband, who's a journalist, it was interesting for him because we went back to the hotel and he spent the rest of the afternoon debunking all the stories that they told us. So
Well
does
done, Rob. I approve. That's
that
probably
was fun.
something I would do too.
Right. Yeah. So are you a Star Trek fan? How did I not know this
Oh
about you?
yeah, big time.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
So
Like I
are
like
you,
all the geeky things.
Mhm.
Like right to the corner of me, that is a drawing that Tim Seeley did of me as Peter Parker, the reporter. You can see my spidey senses going off.
It's awesome.
So I
That's
think, yeah,
cool.
yeah, big nerd of all of them.
Yeah. It's funny. There are not as many of us as I think. Like I've used the term the Borg recently, and people didn't know. And Joan, so this is one difference between our leadership styles. My
Mhm.
the current health officer Joan referred to Spock as Spark um, yesterday, which was the sweetest and also most hilarious thing I've ever heard. So,
It's kind of cute, but yeah, but wrong. Do you remember Two Stupid Dogs?
no.
Oh my God, it was this great cartoon where it was just about this little dog and this big dog.
Mhm.
And the one dog would always say, "Ain't that cute?" But it's wrong.
Oh, I gotta see this now.
Which is very appropriate to what Joan said. Actually, what you usually get is people call him Dr. Spock. It's like,
Oh
no,
yeah.
Dr. Spock was the baby expert. He was Mr. Spock.
That's true. Right? Oh man. Yeah.
He did not have a Vulcan PhD as far as,
Right.
well, that's the weird thing though. He did go to the Vulcan Science Academy, so I guess he
It
didn't
feels
get
like
his.
he would.
You
Yeah.
would think maybe they didn't award PhDs there. They award something else.
So are you also a Star Wars fan?
Yeah, but I like Star Trek better,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
more, I
heard
guess.
I wanted somebody to fact check this, and I don't have the bandwidth to be able to do this right now, but somebody out there might be able to. Is my sister told me that Princess Leia, General Leia, has a PhD in art history, and it seems like just weird enough to be true. So I would like that debunked.
The character, not Carrie Fisher.
Not Carrie Fisher, the
The
character.
character had an art
In
history.
the like the extended like the lore in the books and stuff.
Hmm. Well, I
So
never read the books. I would say I was more of a casual Star Wars fan,
okay.
but I'm definitely more of a Star Trek fan then. Well, the cool thing about Star Wars back in the day is like it was kind of like a thing that a lot of people liked, but no one talked about.
Mhm.
So there was always these moments where someone would make a reference and you'd be like, "Oh, you like that too?"
Mhm.
And then that whole illusion was kind of shattered when they re-released the films, and like you couldn't get a seat in these super long lines at the theater.
Right.
You're like, oh, it wasn't just me and a few people I happened to run into. It was like everybody.
Mhm. So wait, I'm curious, what is your Star Trek? Like, what is your favorite of all the canon and everything?
I am a huge fan of Deep Space Nine.
Mm. So that's the one I haven't seen all of Deep Space Nine. Like, I need to go through the entire.
Mhm.
I'm a big Next Generation. That was my favorite, but I also like Voyager quite a bit.
That's the one I most recently rewatched. I didn't get through all of it, but I went through 5 seasons. And it was funny going back through it. I always, back in the day, I know there was a lot of criticism of Voyager. A lot of it had to do with, well, they should have run out of this resource by now and that. And
Mm.
I know one of the writers who was pretty prominent on Deep Space Nine and who wrote for the first couple seasons of Voyager had different plans for it that didn't get realized. He wanted to make it less episodic and more saga based, which I think would have probably been a better fit for something like Voyager, and it kind of went that direction eventually anyway.
Yeah,
But
but I get bored sometimes with saga based stuff. Like,
oh really?
yeah, like X-Files could have really done more monster for me. This when you talk about me taking on unpopular opinions, like this is going to be one of them, which is that I like the monster of the week ones versus like the ongoing we want to believe alien episodes, you know? So I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, I guess I didn't mind that with I mean, it made sense for next gen. That was sort of the premise of the original Star Trek and next gen is
Mhm.
you have this you basically have the plot device of the week.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember a friend saying a joke like Captain on screen, it's the plot device for this week.
Right. Oh, I
but
missed it. Mm.
but it's funny because like that was sort of like what TV was back then, and now TV has changed so much. It's become everything's like a big long saga, and I honestly think TV has surpassed movies in quality in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I certainly watch more TV than I do movies now.
In fact, that's why I changed at City Pages. We're not really doing theatrical releases anymore. I'm just writing reviews.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stuff that's on Amazon and stuff that's on Netflix and whatnot, because it's more accessible, especially during the pandemic. That was a perfect time to make that transition. But it's kind of something I always wanted to do anyway, because I would say that in the office. I'd be like, well, what do we talk about every week? What are we all talking about? We're not talking about what we saw in the theater. We're talking about what we watched on Netflix.
Right.
Like it's kind of where that changed. So I felt like it was appropriate to start talking about TV more instead. So that's what I've been doing.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally feel that because I'm not going out to movies so much anymore. And if I do, it's like a special treat um and there is this aspect of like all these decisions you have to make now when you go out about how to protect yourself and your personal safety and stuff. And so sometimes it's just easier for me from mentally just to stay home and sit on my couch and see what's on Netflix,
Yeah.
or what's on Hulu. And
Yeah, it's usually the last couple of hours of my day. I'm like, I'm just going to watch something and turn my brain off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Although I've been kind of obsessed with this YouTube show called The Behavior Panel. I actually wrote about it this week.
Okay,
it's like a podcast, but I think you really have to watch it. I don't think they have like an audio version, but it's like these four guys who are like they're behavior experts in body language, experts in facial cues and micro expressions and all these things. And they just they'll take like an interview or some other video that's in the public domain. Like the last one I watched was the Andrew Cuomo apology.
Mm-hmm.
The one before that was like I watched the Oprah interview with Meghan and Prince Harry, which I don't really care about that, but I was like really curious just to see what they do. And they take like a little snippet and then they go through and kind of break down, well, the eyebrow was raised here and there's a little, you can see a little sneer on their face from this. And it's really fascinating.
Wow. Well, I'll check that out. Yeah, that sounds great.
I'm kind of obsessed with it. Like it's kind of cool because like you don't have to watch it all in one swoop. You can kind of watch like part of it and come back to it later. And that's been my obsession. But well, I didn't expect that we'd be talking about Star Trek today. That's exciting.
Yeah, sorry, you never know where an interview with me is gonna go.
Star Trek and beating my old boss at fantasy football.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's hilarious because I know nothing about football. See, like zero. The first time I went to, like, people are serious about football here, and
yeah, we should explain this. Like you're in like a ladies fantasy football group with my former boss Tammy, which always surprised me. She is like the least person I would have expected to be involved in a fantasy football. They're
serious. They like do research. They'll come to we have our draft coming up, and they like buy books of like statistics and they do research, and and they nicknamed me Auto Draft. But the first year I picked all my team players based on how British their names sound, because and I called my team the British Invasion. And that year I won. That year. They were so angry. It was the best.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some British sounding football player names.
Yeah, I don't even remember who they were. But
do you pick a theme like that every year? Is like
Yeah, usually I try to pick something. I don't have a theme yet this year, so if you have any ideas, you know, all players with a T in their name would be a good example, or you know, something like that, or yeah. So
shortest names, shortest.
Yeah,
Or
short
how
name.
about players that have first both names are first names?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, that might be hard. It has to be, yeah.
Like Bill Harris would be like I just made up that name, but it'd be like a good example.
I had no idea whether that was a football player or not. I was gonna be like, yeah, Bill Harris.
Like
I
a
will
Joe,
draft him.
like a Joe Ryan. That's
Right.
like right. They sound like real names.
Right.
And someone's probably named that. I don't know if a football player is, but
I don't know. I would be the last person that you should ask for that. You know,
Actually,
it's funny because I come from, I grew up in Ohio, and Ohio State football is really big, and that's my alma mater for my graduate degrees from Ohio State, and football there was really serious.
oh yeah.
So it's so much so that my professor told me about a time in which she had to give one of the football players a bad grade, and it would have impacted his ability to play, and so she had to be escorted by security to and from her building.
Wow.
Like it was, you know, intense.
Because of all the fans that were mad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you? I don't know. Did you see The Last Chance U on Netflix?
No.
Oh man, that's a fascinating show. So
No,
it's
what's
about
that?
these kids that so there's so when these kids get kicked out of like varsity program, like D1 varsity programs for whatever, for either they had some personal problems or bad grades or whatever, they have kind of a second chance to get back in by going to these junior colleges, and these junior colleges take football really seriously. But it's sort of like a last chance to like make these dreams, and you like see the so you they follow. So what they do is they follow one team around for a season, or they did for like 2 seasons, then they went to another team and did 2 seasons. These coaches are like really intense. They got some personality disorders, serious going on. So it's interesting, but then one, the first one, there's like this counselor, this gal who works with the kids and tries to get their grades up, and she's like half the time pulling out their hair. Like her big thing was like, she was like, do you have pencils? You can't come into class without pencils. She was always giving kids pencils. So that kind of became her thing. She actually started a charity called like 1,000 Pencils or something like that, which is like trying to like get through to them, like, dude, most of you are not going to become professional football players, so like you need to take the rest of this seriously. And it was really interesting. There's a lot of insights into the backgrounds of where some of these kids are coming from and what they are facing, or at least assume they're facing. Like so many of them just assume that it's either football or I'm going to be in jail. And I kept thinking, well, why there's other options. You can just make good choices. Like, but also like right now you have an opportunity to have some help, and you're probably not going to get that if you leave this program. So like take advantage of the help and like get through school. And that's what they're trying to, like this poor lady's trying to do, is like, and then she really falls in love with these kids, and like she's cares about them so much. And it's really interesting to watch.
That's cool. What's it called again?
Last Chance U.
Okay, I'll check that out.
There's 5 football seasons, and then there's one basketball one. I didn't watch the basketball one, but I think the football ones are pretty fascinating.
I'll check it out.
I think even if you don't care about football, they're so well shot and well done too, that like you really get into it, I think.
Yeah, I think I went to a football game once. I think it was with your former boss, Tammy. I don't remember, maybe it was, but I remember I got in trouble with who I went with, because they were like, are you enjoying it? And I was like, yeah, I love their costumes. Apparently costumes is not the right term to use.
No. It is not.
Very so I'm learning.
I think the British might call them costumes, going back to your British theme.
Yes.
They call more things costumes than we do.
Either
either athletic wear is athletic, like I think they say swim costumes. I used to watch a lot of British TV.
Yeah, I like British TV too. I'm a big fan of some of the comedies. So.
Yeah. There was a great one that you can find on YouTube called Hardware.
Mm-hmm.
It was with the guy who played the Hobbit, Tim Martin.
Okay.
He's like stars, and it's like these four goofy guys that work at a hardware store and their silly hijinks.
I love the IT Crowd.
Oh, that's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
I love that one so much. I kind of want to go back. I should watch that again.
Yeah,
I put that on my queue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's one of those shows. Like I have some shows that I put on when I just need something in the background, you know. And The Office was one, and The Good Place is another good one.
Did you like the British Office?
I did back in the day. It is so much harder to watch, though, because they just it's just a whole different feel to it, you know. But
it is
so cringy. Like
it's super cringe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I loved it at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it before the American version came on, and there was a couple other. You know, it was pretty common for them to try American versions of British shows, and they were always bad. So when I heard about The Office, I was like, oh, they're just gonna screw that up. And I didn't watch it until like I think 5 seasons were out, and then people started talking about it. I'm like, well, maybe I should give it a chance. I have to say, I think the American Office might be the one example of the American version being better than the British version.
Yeah, they really came into their stride. You know, I think that well, some seasons are better than others, but it's just so it's so funny, it's so good. And that Mindy Kaling, she wrote quite a bit of those episodes, and I follow her on Twitter, and some people, you know, they quote her to her sometimes, you know, not intentionally, but you know, I don't think they realize that the girl who played Kelly wrote a lot of the episodes.
Right.
Yeah, just killed it. Yep.
Yeah, the British version was a little bit darker, and it had that little bit of a depressing twinge to it that British stuff tends to have.
Yeah. And I heard somewhere, I can't remember where, but the thing they said about the American version is they really wanted Michael Scott to have some redeeming qualities, because in America versus in Britain, and I don't know if this is true, but they said that that in America, like, you're more likely to get fired if you have no redeeming qualities.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, the culture is such that you're just gonna get fired, and so they had to give him some, like in the American version, he's a really great salesman, and so that's what they did.
Yeah, I heard that too. In fact, did you know that there's an Office podcast?
Yeah, the Office Ladies.
Yep.
I listened to that.
Have you been keeping up with it?
I haven't.
I didn't either. I watched probably I probably listened to like the first 10 or 12 episodes. I did find that it was really fascinating, because I'm really fascinated with like how all that works, and like they get into so much of like the behind the scenes production. Like they were talking about the one where he tricks Dwight into hiding in the box. They had to like search. Did you listen to that one?
I did listen to that one.
Isn't that great? I mean, they had to go through like, they were like the props guy was like scrambling to find the boxes for this, and like you would even think, you just think, oh, they just get a box and there he goes. And it didn't even occur to me like how much work had to go into just to get the stupid box for this show.
Yeah, just how much every single thing that you see has been curated specifically. Yeah. The amount of detail that goes into some simple stupid stuff too. Like,
right.
I'm sure I didn't listen to this podcast, but I'm sure the consistency of the chili that was spilled on the floor, you know, I'm sure that they thought about, you know, what is going to create the best spillage and how thick does it need to be. And yeah. And
then what do you do with the carpet afterwards?
Yeah.
I mean, they probably, I wonder if they built like a separate little pretend set so they could spill it, or put a layer of carpet down over it or something. Because then once that stains there, I mean, you're probably not getting it out, but you still need the set. I thought it was fascinating that they all kind of like hung around and just like pretended to be office workers even when they weren't being shot. Like that's fascinating.
Yeah, and then they had to like work on their computers. stuff.
Right. Yeah, they had to like pretend to be, working at an office.
Right.
That's wild.
That is funny. Ah,
Well, I'm sure we could talk for like 3 or 4 hours about about TV and Star Trek and all kinds of other things. But anything that you wanna, before we cap this off, anything you want to leave people with, or you'd want people to know about the health department or anything like
yeah.
that?
Yeah. If you are interested in ending the pandemic, please consider vaccination. If you need more information, you can call the Marathon County Health Department at 715-261-1900. And we'd be happy to give you information so that you can make a good decision about your health.
And Laura will thank you, and Spark will thank you too.
Okay.
Well, Laura, it's been awesome having you on the podcast as always. Always a joy to talk to, and this was a great episode. I think covered a lot of ground, a lot of retro TV, which makes me happy. But thanks for being on. Anything you want to plug or anything? Should people follow you anywhere? I think you're on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm just Laura at Laura Scud. So people can
Still
follow
the
me.
assassin.
Yeah. Right. Yep. So.
Well, as I say all to all my guests, keep it Wausome, Laura, and you got to say it back.
Oh, keep it Wausome, Brian.
Keep it Wausome. All right, you guys keep it Wausome out there too, and we will see you in the future.